Here you have 2 points, number 4 and number 5. What are the musical and poetical devices? And what are the features or important features or characteristics, let's say, of modern poetry? If we go ahead reading, dealing, explaining, before doing them or reading them, I'd like to remember and remind you with what you call the intensification of poetry. There are elements supporting poetry, how poetry can be enjoyable through what? Through either through listening, through reading, okay, in learning. So from these points, the coming points, you realize or you understand why poetry is important. Someone can say, okay, is poetry important? You can say yes, or you can say no. It can be this or that. But in both cases, either you say yes or you say no. There should be what? There should be what you call argument. There should be convincing as well as persuasion to pursue. Why? Why is that? Why it is important? Can we enforce others to say no, it is not important, and to convince them to say that it is important? In fact, no. So as you read with me, we can find that poetry intensifies, consolidates, supports, okay, reinforce the development of learning, Yeah, so poetry can help in learning, yes. How? Through 13 elements I wrote in my book. One of my books is called Appreciating Poetry. Appreciating Poetry is extracted within these 13 elements. The first one, as you read, enlarging and widening the background of learners by what? Consolidating, intensifying, or enriching their experience with new words, vocabulary, and ideas. So this is the way. The development of learning through, number 2, affording a better milieu for learning the language. Yes, when you deal with poetry, you deal with not only just every language, no, but you deal with ascending language, the language of the elite. Okay, yes, like that. What is next? Helping to get satisfactory intonation, accent, and pronunciation. Here we go to them. Right now, after we finish reading them, we can deal with them. Intonation, accent, and punctuation. Connected with devices, musical devices. How can we say that poetry is musical? It is music. Through what? Through these poetical devices. Number 4 is increasing the power of invention, personal expression. Inventive personal expression through imagination. Yeah. Imagination is a crucial circle in poetry. No poet can avoid imagination. Okay? Yeah, you can say symbolism, picturing, depiction, portraying, yeah, with what? With imagination. Next point is reinforcing performance in learning and solving problems and making decisions. How? Yeah. Sometimes you can find wisdom or maxim or proverbs in some lines of some poems, so in poetry, to solve problems, to make decisions. Sometimes, especially in what? In war, for example, when you have praise or pride. You remember what our Arab knights poet said, أن الخيل والليل والبيداء تعرفني. هذا المتنبي? Yes, I think so. When someone hears such what we call urging words, he feels that he's going to fly, to dive into a battle. Again, getting somewhat putting different terminologies in context. Through what? Through realizing, through understanding. And I'd like you to select some lines of some poems explained in what you call in pages. Next one, number 8, is appreciating the word as well as the individual, utilizing of imagination. That's right. Having a sort of enjoyment when picturing, depicting, portraying the world through what? Through images, symbolism, imaginative points, as well as individual, utilizing of imagination. Individual, when you speak about what? Symbols, individual contents. It can be, for example, for the kings, princes, presidents, noble people. They are what? They are praised. They are individual. They are individual people. Next one is creating a mood of reverence and concern of others. Yeah, the famous poets, we find in that. Yeah. So to be pointed with the fingers. Oh, look to Flan. Wow, mashallah, he's a great poet. Yeah, a mood of reverence and concern for others. At the same time, for poetry, appreciating foreign cultures, appropriately to consolidate language. And this will come maybe next class, inshallah, when we try to analyze a poem from our course specifications like the Westland or Sailing to Byzantium or Emily Dickinson, what is it? A Guide for Beauty. Okay, we can appreciate such cultures we are dealing with, we are understanding, to consolidate our language, yeah, to use the language perfectly, but not any use, yeah, literary use, scientific use. The last 2 points, as you say, are motivating for terminology learning to make involving with words, please, and. Last one is building up self-assurance. Confidence. Self-assurance means confidence. Okay. To speak confidently. Okay. These points are very, very interesting. To remind you with what we have covered last time also, yeah, dealing with the musical devices, which are part of poetry. Musical devices can be related to what? Related to rhythm. قلب الشعر. ما هو قلب الشعر؟ rhythm. الإيقاع أو التفعيلة. Okay. Rhyme, assonance, speed, measure, cadence, intonation, meter, fold, tone, accented and unaccented syllables, as well as many others. Okay, many other things. I mean, these are connected with the verse, with music, with the sound. What about meaning? Deep meaning. We have many others also. You remember what we have? Metaphor, similes, symbols, imagination, connotation, okay, and many others. These are all components to me poetry. Call it poetry. Yeah, now we go to musical device. Revise, just to revise it. Mixing here and there for increasing our background of what? Of the tools, the devices, the machines functioning with poetry. How can we start? We start reading these what you call introductory sentences or paragraphs, introduction to musical devices or poetical devices. It can be poetic devices or musical devices. If a reader like you, a learner, a critic, wants to read any piece of literature, such as a prose drama, a novel, a short story, an essay, or even a report, or any non-poetic piece, he or she might enjoy just one element. What is this element? Meaning. Okay, yes. Dealing with meaning. Meaning can be superficial, okay, shallow, just or direct, with what we call denotative, not connotative, denotative. which the reader endeavor to grasp, just direct. However, the other point is different. The matter with poetry is very different. How is that? The reader, any reader, but not any reader of the layman. No, we say some of the interested or related to literature, to poetry, especially to literature in general. He or she needs to put in mind more than one element. So what we have said before, we have one element. What is this one element? The meaning. But what about now? What we have more than one element. What are these elements? To be known, more than one. To perfectly understand and enjoy poetry. So again, Shabab, it is not a matter of understanding, but it's a matter of enjoying. If you understand, you need language. If you understand and enjoy, you need elevated language, imaginative language, figurative language, symbolic language. You must, and must is stronger than have to or ought to, must utilize two elements. What are they? As you know, meaning and verse. Alone? Finished? No. And we have to stop here concerning meaning, about meaning or on meaning. Meaning should be deep. If it is not deep, if it is superficial or shallow or surface meaning, it can be what it can be like prose or even rhythm or verse, no problem. It can be verse, but not poetry. So meaning is divided into superficial and deep. Superficial means, as you know, refers to a literary or any writing excluding poetry. It is direct. To deal with poetry, the matter is different. The reader should open his or her mind to dive through what the poetic meaning. What is poetic meaning here? The deep meaning, which I might call it the deep meaning, yes. So what is deep meaning? From its meaning is clear, but let's go get some ideas about it. Connected with the devices related to poetry. So deep meaning can be realized through the utilization of some literary terms. As we mentioned in the first session, glossary of literary terms, such as metaphor, simile, truthful symbols, imagination, connotation, allegory, and many others. As we just mentioned them, they are what? They are devices connected with the meaning. We could put with them meaning and deep meaning. We have to think about that. And many other devices, there are many. Go to the first page, okay, in the first class. The meaning of this point should be deep. In this case, I might call it poetic, but still in poetry. Why? If we have deep meaning alone, in this case, it is what? It is poetic. Because it needs something to be completed, to be attached to the point, finishing it with as poetry, calling it as poetry. If the reader wishes to deal with poetry, two requisites. Okay, two requirements need to be applied or used. The first is deep meaning, as we mentioned, and the second is verse. So let's begin here with verse. What is verse? Versus music. What is music? Music is sound. But what kind of sound? A sound of the drum, a sound of the piano, a sound, even the sound of the person with intonation. Yeah, here we can call it like verse. If a piece of writing here means a poem, has deep meaning only, it is, as I said, poetic. And if this piece of poetry has other elements like rhythm, rhyme, assonance, speech, measure, cadence, intonation, metaphor, tone, accented and unaccented syllables, beside others, which mentioned earlier, but all these should donate to sound, related to sound. It is then, in this case, we can call it what? Verse. If we have verse, if we have deep meaning, in this case, we have poetry. So what constitutes poetry now is both deep meaning and verse. Again, ideas about verse. Verse alone is not poetry. It's part of poetry, but it is not poetry. If you believe is constituted from rhythm, rhyme, assonance, beat, measure, cadence, intonation, meter, four, tone, accented and unaccented syllables, as we mentioned. In this case, the verse is sound and sound is music, but still not poetry. Yeah, we have to make a measure for both of them. Poetry, perceptually, makes a larger practice of the music in language. So, language, sound, more than the language itself, which is not poetry. The poet, the good poet, we speak about the good poet, carefully selects expressions for sound alone with what? With meaning. And what kind of meaning? Utilizing this sound and meaning to what? To strengthen. The sound should strengthen the meaning. The meaning should support the sound. So different from the writer or the author who uses language just to deliver only superficial information or ideas, like this class, for example. This class is just what you call information. Okay, so it is direct information, supporting information, delivering a speech. Is it poetry? No. Again, let's realize this one, utilizing the sound as a means of strengthening the meaning. You remember what has T.S. Coleridge said about poetry in his definition? He said, okay, as we remember, comparing poetry and prose, he said, prose is words in the best order. Okay? What is that? It's grammar, language, natural language. If there is no best order, it is not structure, it is not grammar. What about poetry? Poetry in this case is something different. With one word, just only one word to make a difference. So again, prose is words in the best order. Poetry is the best word or words in the best order. What is the difference here? What is the different in a matter? Using what? Using one word, the best. Best words in the best order. What is best word in best order? It means music and intonation and deep meaning. Different from writer or author who uses language to deliver only superficial speech, superficial information, or notions or ideas. The prominent and best quality of poetry is musical, and some authors have made unique terms in their descriptions of poetry, such as Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe, she defines poetry saying what personal definition. The importance of music, especially the verbal, like imaginative metaphors, figurative language, and connotation, are one of the supreme significant resources that qualify the poet to do what? To do more than converse ordinary information. More than, here, the stress is here. More than just conversation, ordinary conversation. No, there is something higher. And the meaning should be deep. Okay. For devices, musical devices should be what? Musical. Any good poet could certainly sometimes chase verbal music for its what? Specific sake. The sake of what? Of creating the position, real position, support for what? For selection of the words, the order of the what we call verse, harmony, symmetrical, more regularly, as a minimum in first step poetry, in first step or first grade poetry. Verbal music is an addition to the entire communication or connotation of the poem. Communication means singing here, not just talking, singing. Connotation, meaning, the hidden meaning, connotation. It is not denotation. Okay, look to the ideas. How can we realize, how can we understand what the great language? In what? In poetry. Once again, the good poet attains musical quality into comprehensive what? Methods, theories, techniques. What are these two? The first is by the election of the arrangement of sounds and arrangement of sound. The second is by arrangement of annotation. Sound, verse, annotation, meaning. Here, the reader, like you, shall consider the first of them. Okay? So, another element, a vital element in music, in verse, in poetry, is reiteration. What is reiteration? Recurrence. What is recurrence? Repetition. As you know, in the general English, repetition of the same pattern, of the same words, is what is a bad style of writing. Even saying, there is what you call a fed-up situation. But in poetry, no, the matter is different. Repetition is giving what? Giving either supporting the meaning, stressing positively on the meaning to make it deep, imaginative, symbolic, legend, and also the recurrence or reiteration or repetition create a sort of intonation, tone, music, cadence. Okay? Here we have the readers might say that all types, okay, of involved art, not only literature, all kinds of arts get structured to two features. The first is reiteration, and the second one is what is variation. Here also, we care a lot on poetry. Reiteration, you know, repetition. Variation means not similarity, not identical. Not identical. To create intonation, cadence, there should be variation, yeah. Like the sound should be different from the beginning, going up, down. We have, you know, accented and unaccented syllables, stressed and unstressed syllables. Here what we mean by variation, varied. Okay. All affects the readers enjoy significantly the and primarily the two features. What are these two features? Repetition and variation. We should not forget that. Here we have an example. This example is concrete, just to understand the abstract. Okay. All affects the reader enjoy significantly and permanently have the two features. They enjoy the sea, eminently because it is constantly the same, yet permanently different. Yeah, the waves of the sea, the waves. Are they the same? Yes, they are the same, and but identical? No, they are not identical. There is variation. Some of them they are strong, some others are weak. Some of them are long, others are short, or others are short. Okay. They enjoy a football match because it comprises a complex arrangement of patterns and variation. What is pattern and variation? We have the goalkeeper, we have the attacker, we have the midfield, we have the defender, and they are all playing football. Huh? They are playing football, but there are what? Everyone has a different what you call role to do, right? Like that. Now, the reader's affection, you, how to enjoy. For art is deep situated in human consciousness. What is consciousness? Realization. What is realization? Feeling, emotions, connected with the mind, with the spirit, with the heart. Okay. They like to be appraised as well as love variety. However, They love the combined and combine the two. If they acquire too much similarity, the consequence might be monotonous and boredom. And if they acquire too much variety, the consequence might be what bewilderment and misunderstanding. Yeah, when you say the repetition and variation are two different, but especially variation can be what it can be bewilderment, perplex, which results in what? In misunderstanding. If they are the same, monotony. What is monotony? Yeah, so it is, there is no attraction. Consequently, the composer of music reiterates, repeats, okay, certain musical attitudes, like sounds, or repeats them in definite arrangements. Again, when we say arrangements, we remember what the definition of coleridge, or harmonies, and reiterate them in definite patterns or speech of music or piece of music. So harmonies, and harmony is not similar. It should be what? Musical. When we say musical, it means there is what we call little variation to have a sort of attraction. Variation with attraction. Again, we always say the poet, but what we mean by the poet, we mean the good poet. The poet similarly reiterates different sounds in different combinations and variations, and consequently enhances the musical meaning of poetry by such combination to enhance, to reinforce, consolidate, support the meaning of poetry. Yes, poets could reiterate any entity of sound, from the shortest to the longest, and not anyone, only the poets, the good poets, those who have what we call the spirit of reading, imagining, depicting, and portraying. They could reiterate separate vowels, reiterate as we could repeat, and constant sounds, phrases, expressions, syllables, different syllables, okay? Entire lines or syllables, or even groups of lines. In each example, in a worthy poem, again, when we say a worthy poem is in a good poem, has all the necessary components or devices to make it a poem. The reiteration will serve numerous determinations, such as pleasing, pleasing what? Pleasing the air, from the air, pleasing the heart, from the heart, connected with the mind, emphasizing the expressions in which the reiteration occurs, and give edifice, structure, and arrangements to the poem. Edifice means like what we call nice building, structure, arrangement in a poem. What is that? A sort of admiration. Admiration, the admiration and initial magnificence of such reiteration or reiterations are. Reiteration is demonstrated by their becoming in many examples rooted in the tongues of pitch, such as cinque swim, cinque swim, look, sa, penny, pennywise, pound polish, halter skelter, footloose and fancy free, fa, okay, ooh, fancy free, fa, wild and woolly, wild and wa, dead and thumbnail, da, harum scarum, might and main, do or die, first and foremost, pell-mell, hocus pocus. All these are sounds, even if they are what? They are nouns, proper nouns, verbs, adjectives, whatever. we compare the sounds and the variation, repetition and variation, to significant, what we call devices in poetry. A number of the other mentioned types of reiteration have names. It can be what? It can be proper. It's no problem. It can be just common nouns, verbs, or others. The smallest unit of articulation in poetry is a syllable. So what is a syllable? It's made of vowel voice that could be heeded or followed by a speech sound that is not a vowel, to create a sort of harmony, consistency in the word, related to each other, composed together, even composing or making in order. Some of the sounds can be reiterated. The reiteration of opening consonant sounds such as facial fall, drive through, rhyme or reason, safe and sound, many others are what? Are the use of saying consonant at the beginning of each first syllables in a line of verse. Again, reiteration of vowel sounds, as in the following instances or examples, like free and easy, splash, slap, dash, time out of mind, mad as a hatter. Look to the what you call vowel sounds. There is a reiteration. They are the reiteration of the similar vowels in the accented syllables of constructive expressions. Reiteration, repetition of closing sounds, closing constant sounds, okay, not vowels, as in the following instances: a stroke of luck, first and last, short and sweet, odds and ends are the repetition of consonant, particularly at the ends of expressions. So what is it? Consonant. Reiteration again could be used by itself or in amalgamation. It can be used alone by itself or with what you call mixing, amalgamation, mixing between between vowels or consonants. We have alliteration now. Moving to what? Closing from mixing, from amalgamation. Alliteration and consonants are united in phrases like squeeze and squinch, good as gold, crisscross, meanings lost, in manners, okay, learn and loan, trippers and trappers. Trippers and trappers here. And last but not least, these are alliterative. Alliteration and assonance are united. So the first one has consonants, and now we are amalgamated with assonance. United in phrases like fit as a film, thin and thick, kin and kith, alack and alas, the viol and violet, and the violet and the vine, and the tide and time. The combination of assonance and consonant is rim, like rhyme, to be close to the end, or even beginning. That. So it is what a rim, sort of rim. Expression alliteration is used. Here we have alliteration. And mostly alliteration is a very interesting what we call poetic devices or musical devices in poetry. Is used as this point to denote, or at this point to denote, the beginning of adjacent or careful related expressions with the same letter or sound. But personally, I don't prefer letter, I prefer sound. Okay, sometimes when you write a letter, the letter is pronounced differently than what appears sometimes. Moreover, the expression consonants means the reiteration between carefully related expressions of any consonantal and consonantal sounds. These are the interesting ideas. To think about what? About alliteration, assonance, consonants. Yes, go ahead with that, with the alliteration, with the reiteration. In addition to the reiteration of separate syllables and sounds like stress and stressed, the poet reiterates the whole expressions or line or even groups of words. When such reiteration is prepared, what kind of preparation is prepared consistent with some fixed pattern? What happens in this case? It is entitled to a refrain. A refrain, yeah. Sometimes the refrain is one of the best, what you call, sections or segments in a poem to be sung, in a lyric. Such refrain is particularly public in poetry and can be categorized as song-like, yes, like. As you know, okay, after understanding the importance of the refrain is the repeated, what you call, ending part of the stanza or the poem to be repeated mostly. Until here, the writer has not nearly fatigued the opportunities of sound reiteration, giving names to a limited of the more noticeable kinds. The whole study, okay, of conceivable kinds of sounds, reiteration in poetry might be complex. Why? Because there are so many. The poetical devices or musical devices connected with sound, there are so many. What we have here, we need to get such just select the most important, the most famous, the most needed ones. Some of the delicate and loveliest outcomes and influences, okay, escape the net of terms. Terms connected with the language, you know, the think of what, of poetry or of song. Going back to what, to assonance. We find assonance, repetition of the same, what you call, vowel sound. Here we have like ivy, light, ivy, light, vine. What about consonant? We have consonants in ivy, the same, back and lovely. The alliteration in light and lovely, huh? Lie, love, light and love. Look, this is why I told you that I prefer sound more than the letter. Look, light and love. Okay, both of them, both of these words, these start with two different words, two different letters. L-I in light and L-O in love. So what they are similar in articulation or in the sound, in the pronunciation. Light, love. Okay. The commentator, the writer, has no need to connect, okay, the sound ba in vine with the ba was in ivy or lovely, and the second sound ba in lovely with what, with the first sound la. The matter is similar in the final syllables of lovely and ivy with each other. However, these are altogether an operative measure of musical line. Musical line. Sometimes, even if you focus on 2 or 3 syllables, there is variation, but similar. You can find even more than 2, 3, 4, 5. A complete line, creating what? Creating musical tone. In musical line, one complete line. Here we have participating in the music of poetry is linking of related instead of matching sound. Linking in related. What is related? And matching. Why matching is not accepted? Matching means exact, and related means similar, okay, with a sort of variation. Here's poetry. If it is exact, sometimes it can be monotonous. Okay. For instance, the vowel sounds in expressions such as boat and book, or na and ma, or pa and ba. What we find variation. We find little difference. Not in letter, as I said, in what? In sound. And this variation creates poetry, creates music. From music, we connect it with meaning to have perfect poetry. These numerous musical reiterations or repetitions for qualified readers like you will normally be clearly subconscious, not total conscious, okay, subconscious influence. Where on the process of reading the poem, if you are reading a poem, or if you read the poem, okay, like prose, you are not enjoying to what the consciousness of reiteration, alliteration, assonance, consonance. You have to be conscious in it. Sometimes even by what? Even by imitating in such a way, you as a reader feeds his speech without essentially being conscious of what has produced it. A philosophical matter. You read, your mind is going with the meaning, and you don't know what are you doing with your legs or feet. Okay? When you think of a poem, speak a poem, your hands are doing moves. These moves, okay, are unconsciously moved. Okay? It is a worthy assessment, nonetheless, in occasionally investigations about a poem for such devices, so as to increase what? Consciousness of the devices. Consciousness means realization, understanding, or knowing. Few expressions of caution are essential. Like what? The reiterations. In first, we have the reiterations are totally a matter of echo. And again, echo is musical. Spelling is inappropriate and impact. What do we mean by spelling? Spelling means letters. If we just focus on spelling as letters, they can be what? Inappropriate and impact. Not proper, not suitable. Okay, look, pair and bear. Do we care of the letter? No, we care of what? Of the sound. Pair and bear. You can sing it. They are what? They are rhymes. On the other hand, rough and through. Look, rough and through. There is no what? There is no right or good equal. Through and rough. Do you realize the difference? Yeah, they are what? They are not. They are not rhyming. Gun and gin. Gun and gin. Sin and sugar. Look, gun and gin. Sin and sugar. We have letter. Spelling. Okay? So we care about sounds again, not the words, and so not the letters or spelling. Here we have ga and ga. Okay? But the sound is different. We have sa and sa, s and s, but the sound is different. They are what? They are not alliterating, or they don't alliterate. Folly and philosophy, sell and sin. Look at the difference. But they rhyme, they alliterate. Folly and philosophy, clearly alliterate. There is what we call alliteration, repetition of the sounds in a perfect way. Perfect means not identical, with variation, musical and with variation. We spoke about the first. What about the second? Managed rhyme, assonance, consonance, and alliteration are matters that usually comprise merely stressed syllables. Why? For simply such syllables usually make an adequate effect. Yeah, what we need the effect. What kind of effect? Adequate. Where? On the ear. Okay, from the ear. If it goes sensitively to the heart, to the mind, yeah, to be important in the sound design of the power, making a good power, perfect power. The third point, the expressions involved in these reiterations are close adequately or properly together that the ear preserves the sound intentionally or unconsciously. Intentionally or unconsciously, either by intention or without consciousness, from its first happening to the next point, from the first to the next point. What we have gap, okay, gap or distance. This distance differs along with the circumstance, but for consonance, assonance, and alliteration, all these important, the expressions generally are required to be in adjacent lines. Why adjacent? Why, I mean, one over the other, adjacent lines? For harmony, for consistency, to make the meaning, and before the meaning we have the sound, we have the music, if not in the same line, to be adjacent, as close as possible. If, for example, if we have end rhyme bonds, they are connected, we will get what? We'll get a longer gap. Connected, we will get what? We'll get a longer gap. Going to significant of what we call features of modern poetry. I am sure that you remember the characteristics of romantic poetry, such as emotions, imagination, symbolism, individualism, nature. We mentioned nature, emotions, pastoral life, and also we find several what we would contrast to these concerning the Victorian poetry. So Victorian came after the Romantics, from the almost the mid of the 19th century until the beginning of the 20th century. Modern century means from the beginning of the 20th century until today. Modern until contemporary, and contemporary until now we have what contemporary poetry. So are they the same? Are okay poems of all ages have the same what you call features, characteristics, manners, themes? No. Every age has its distinction. For that, we can say one important characteristic of modern poetry is that it is written in free verse form. And even if it is free verse form, yeah, it is a weakness of good poetry, of classical poetry. Also, it is written in language that common reader would find accessible. Accessible means easy for everyone. And here we have what we call influence of T.S. Eliot, the American bird, the British national. Number 3 or third point, a modern poem lets the reader offer its own conclusions and ideas. It is very simple that everyone can share. okay, without complexity. But sometimes it lacks either music, rhythm, rhyme, tone, intonation, tone, measurement in a good way, as well as the meaning. But sometimes you can find. So where we have here, again, just let me say three verse. Three verse is not poetry. It has some characteristics of poetry, but it is not full. If there is good meaning, deep meaning, in this case, yes. Okay. By poetry, we mean modern poetry, because not only have a special and intimate understanding of the poetry of our age. Age and time, but we look at the poetry of all ages through the midst of our own, through comparison, okay, through comparing. Modern poetry is poetry that is already separated from the story. What is story? The drama, the novel, the prose in general, and has played a special part in the relation of consciousness of the development, okay, bourgeois class to its surroundings. Okay, what are the specific characteristics of this modern poetry? Let's go to them, getting quickly. I'm sure that they are very much easy. You understand them, and you can use them, you apply them. We have poetic rhythmic. All the characteristics mentioned here are what? Are negotiative, argumentative, rhythmic. Is there poetry without rhythmic? If it is what? If it is prose. So in this case, you cannot say that it is rhythmic. Okay, rhythm, rhyme, rhythmic, rhyme, especially rhythm is the heart. Rhythm is the heart. الإيقاع, التفعيلة. Classically, التفعيلة. Musically, الإيقاع. Okay, so rhythmic, we say rhythm in poetry. To use rhythm in poetry can take the form of either metrical verse, a strict pattern of certain number of stressed and unstressed syllables. In each line of the poem, the what metrical verse usually includes a rhyme scheme. But if we say free verse, means that it is not necessary to be rhymed completely, but it may not rhyme. This is called blank verse. Yeah, blank verse, and after that we have free verse. Blank verse, al-mursal, and now we have what beside that we have free verse or free verse, blank verse or free verse. A loose rhythm. Okay, that sounds like natural speech. It is as close as prose. Okay, or natural speech. Typically, it does not use a rhyme scheme, but does use other sound effects. Going again to rhythmic, the marked rhythm of poetry, superimposed upon the natural rhythm. Natural, we mean accented and unaccented syllables, or unaccented with accented syllables. Here's what we read there. Natural rhythm of any language seems to have taken its root from two sources. What are they? What are these two sources? The first one, okay, makes easier declamation in common and therefore emphasize the collective nature of poetry. It is the impression of the social mode in which poetry is generated. Okay. As a result, the nature of rhythm expresses in a subtle and sensitive way the precise balance between instinctive or emotional content of what? Of a poem or of the poem. and the social relationship or relations through which emotion realizes itself collectively. Number two, this situation brings us a special feature of the bourgeois contradiction in poetry. The specific way in which rhythm facilitates collective declamation and also emotion. The body has certain natural periodicities: pulse, beat, breath. We have about what about that? The body, for example. Here we have an example which form a dividing line between the casual characters of outside events and the ego. Okay, to make it appear as if we experience the subjectively in a special and direct manner. So, through rhythm, though rhythm is fundamental to poetry, it cannot be dismissed with some simple formula such as rhythm is hypnotic and produces hypersynthesia, or metrical patterns express social norms. The significance of rhythm is historical. All over the ages, we cannot find good poetry without music. What is music? Rhythmical. Okay, so rhythmical is the heart of poetry, is the heart of the line, the heart of the poem. And at any given time depends upon the unfolding of society's basic contradictions in language. Sure, connected with the language, but what kind of language we have to think about? What elevated language, poetic language, figurative language, or literary, even scientific, not just what you call everyday speech. Another characteristic, it is true all over the ages, not only in the modern time, but it is universal. When we say poetry is difficult to translate, I think this is simple. Okay, what can we say about that? It's very much simple. If you give a poem to 10 translators, one poem, and you request them to translate it, what you find? Will you find the same translation totally from the beginning until the end? Of course not. Some translators, they translate the sense. Some others, they translate the meaning, verbal meaning, general meaning, okay? Poetic meaning, if the translator is what is sensitive or has literary touches, okay? Yeah. Next one is what the poetry is irrational. It can be rational, it cannot be rational sometimes, okay? In Arabic, there is a very fantastic, what we call proverb. Is it in Arabic? Yes, I think in Arabic, but maybe we can find a similar, what you maxim or proverb in other languages. It might be the same. Poetry is irrational. Okay. If we understand being irrational, it means that it is negative. It is not accepted. It is what impossible or irrational. But what is irrationality? If we understand this Arabic, what you call phrase, proverb, maxim, you can see that poetry is irrational as well as rational. خذوا الحكمة من أفواه المجانين. Is it accepted that we can take wisdom, okay, from the mouths of those crazy people or mad people or lost mind? No. But sometimes it is. Here, look to this, what you put to this picture. We can find funny, interesting things. Poetry involves the mysterious mysteries of the irrational perceived through rational words here. The poem is written in words. These words are rational. But you go to irrationality when you say 1 plus 1 equals 1. You remember what I have said last time about this one, and 1 plus 1 equals 1. Several people, they said, no, it is not correct. It should be 2, but with rationality, we make it correct. 1 plus 1 is 1. Yeah, it is accepted, true, it is true, correct. Okay, so what is irrationality? This is not to say that poetry is incoherent or meaningless. No, on the opposite. On the contrary, poetry obeys the rules of grammar and generally capable of paraphrasing. So poetry is more than applying to what to structure to syntax. No, capable of paraphrasing. Just one line of verse in a poem can be explained in 2, 3, 4 pages. For example, the series of propositions, of which it consists, can be stated in different prose forms in the same or other languages. However, the philosophy is Spinoza remains the philosophy Spinoza when explained by disciples, and the novel Tolstoy, the novel Tolstoy remains a novel of Tolstoy when translated, and a fairy tale is the same fairy tale by whomsoever it is told. A paraphrase of a poem, though still making the same statement as the original, is no longer the same poem. Is probably not a poem at all. By rational, we mean irrational or rational here, we mean conforming. With what? With ordering meaning. Agree upon saying the environment. Okay? Scientific arguments is rational in this sense, poetry is not. If you say scientific argument is not rational, in this case we say poetry is not rational. It is what irrational. How? You remember what you have mentioned about 1 plus 1 equals 1. If you say that 1 plus 1 equals 1 is wrong, so in this case poetry is not rational. But when you say 1 plus 1 equals 1 and you accept it, in this case poetry is irrational. And irrationality, it's not bad, it's good. Philosophy, wisdom, life itself, the beauty of life. We have already seen, however, that there is another commonness or social congruence in language. In language, distinguishable from environmental congruence. As the example mentioned, going back to Plato, who referred to this special irrationality of poetry in the quotation given by Ion in a play Plato. This was what Shelley meant when he said that poetry is something not just subject to the active power of the mind. If it is active, it can be what? It can be action. But we need seniority. We need smoothness. We need relaxation. Poetry is composed of words. Yes and no. Now, here's the philosophy. Yes and no. It is words, but not only words. The final element, the final point is what? Is pictures. Poetry is composed of words to make pictures, to create pictures. For poetry, the idea is everything. Idea. The rest is a word of illusion. Or divine illusion. Even it can be divine illusion. Poetry attaches its emotions to the idea. So again, the idea is the fact. Look, like a circle. The strongest part of our religion today is the unconscious poetry. When you say religion, it means here, not our means the Muslims, but here can be expressed connected with what with the non-Muslims. Okay? So when you say religion today is its unconscious poetry, just to express what poetry and words, and poetry of, with meaning, poetry with language. Shelley uses form and religious and civil habits of what of action are all instruments and materials of poetry. They may be called poetry, okay, by the figures of speech, which considers considers the effect as a synonym of the cause. And what is cause? Cause here means the mind, the reason, okay, which can play with words. The truth that poetry is produced by man's real existence in society is what is the concept of looseness. Looseness. Yeah, to make it loose. What else we have? Next one we have, again, like rational and irrational. Non-symbolic, but what we mean by symbolic? What do you mean by symbolic? Look, it's very much simple. Poetry is non-symbolic. If we consider symbolism like figures, if we mean by symbolism imagination, it is symbolic. Poetry is very much symbolic. Okay, especially when you say, look, the moon is walking. The moon is walking. Right? Here we shall not be accused of commonplace, yes. On the contrary, this is the negative of a commonplace. What do you mean by negative? Negative means, just figurative, not figurative. Not figurative. Not symbolic. Okay, direct, denotation, not connotation. If we mean by symbolic, denotative, yes, so poetry is non-symbolic. If we mean by symbolic, connotative, so it is poetic. Poetry is symbolic, like that. What do we mean when we say words are symbolic? That is symbols and nothing else. Symbols and nothing else. Now you are out of what? Of imagination, out of emotions, out of senses. Okay, for example, symbol, when you speak about numbers, for example, numbers, they are what? They are symbols, figures. We mean that the words themselves are nothing. We are not interested in them, but in what they refer to. Like number 5. What do you mean by number 5? It has nothing to do with itself. No, it is a reference that there are 5, either people or things or. Thus, when a mathematician writes 8 plus 9 equals 17. 8 plus 9 equals 17. He is not interested in the words themselves, right? But in the ordering of certain generalization classes encountered in empirical reality. What is empirical reality? Empirical reality, as I mentioned before, means 1 plus 1 equals 2. But to change it, you have to prove what? 1 plus 1 equals 1. 1 plus 1 equals 1. That's it. Here on this page we can find such symbols. Okay, by what? By different what you call examples of saying or explaining in figures, numbers, letters. All of them are similar. Okay, so now just summarizing today, to create what you call components of what we have in our 20th century poetry. The first one is finishing, completing some crucial elements dealing with the devices of poetry, or we call them musical devices, poetic devices. I am sure that you understand them, you know them in a good way. The second important thing, it can be a question in the coming poetical exams. What are the characteristics or features or qualities or traits, okay, of what? Of modern poetry. I think today is enough to stop here for this session. If you have any question, I will be happy to listen and share.